I saw an interview with Jamaal Bowman, who's a congressman, yesterday. And honestly, it was very bittersweet for me because finally, an elected progressive was not mincing words. Finally, an elected progressive, at least on the policy, they agree with us on policy, was calling out Joe Manchin's corruption and his donors. And finally, a progressive was going on offense. The only problem was it was 6 months too late. Colin, let's play Jamaal Bowman, who is he on with? CNN.
So this is exactly why tens of millions of Americans don't care about our government, don't trust our government, and are done with our government. Not just the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party as well. I was infuriated when I heard those comments, but I wasn't surprised because we had been sounding the alarm on this for several months, worried about what Manchin was going to do when it was time for him to make a decision. It went from $3.5 trillion to $1.75 trillion because his special interests, his donors, and lobbyists were cutting the bill for several months because they did not want this bill to pass. Why? Because this bill disproportionately supports people of color. It supports people of color. It supports women. It supports children. It supports those who are poor and lifts them out of poverty. Why wouldn't Manchin want to support that when this would benefit West Virginia tremendously? It's tremendously frustrating for me as a black man in America because, once again, it's an example of Joe Manchin as a white man showing that he doesn't care about black people. He doesn't care about Latinos. He doesn't care about immigrants. He doesn't care about women. And he doesn't care about the poor. He is a millionaire. And he has the privilege to kick the can down the road and not vote for this bill while the people in my district are suffering. If he were responsive to them, he would behave and vote differently. But it's about his donors. He's had the biggest fundraising year of his career. It's about lobbyists who are spending more this year than they've ever spent in their entire existence. Speaking of pharmaceutical lobbyists. So let's speak about what the reality is. Big money in politics has to go. We have to respond to the American people, because if we don't have a democracy.
So first of all, Jamaal Bowman, Cori Bush, Ayanna Pressley, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, they voted no on the bipartisan infrastructure deal. So, hey, I've had a lot of criticisms of them. And I've been criticized. Jordan, you're not calling them the fraud squad. They deserve credit for voting no on the bipartisan infrastructure deal because they knew Manchin could not be trusted, and they voted no. With that said, that's a day late and $1 short. Where was this fire from Jamaal Bowman, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush for a year? Where was this fire? Where was them specifically calling out Manchin's donors, Cinema's donors? The fact that Cinema was literally doing fundraisers in real time with Big Pharma. The fact that Cinema literally did a fundraiser in Europe, while stripping down this legislation to nothing. I wasn't calling for them to go after his donors or call him corrupt for my own entertainment, for theater. I was calling for it because it's effective. I was calling for it because when you call the opponent exactly what they are, corrupt, when you point out that they are literally stripping planet-saving climate proposals out of legislation, that they are literally stripping important provisions that would allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices that could literally save lives to make drugs more affordable for people. I think Medicare for all. I think it should be all free at the point of service like every other country. But we don't have a progressive in the White House right now, and the elected progressives are not going to the bat for Medicare for all. So I was willing to take expanded Medicare, expanded vision, expanded hearing. But if you're going to be diplomatic for the entire negotiations, Pramila Jayapal and Ro Khanna came on here. I appreciate him coming on, but let's not mince words. They went on these interviews and TV and they were diplomatic with Manchin. They never pointed out that he was corrupt. They never pointed out that literally all the provisions he was taking out, his donors didn't want it. And you want to know why that is such a colossal failure? Because literally the media cares about two things: profit and profit. And you know what creates profit? Conflict. Conflict, conflict, conflict. So the media would have covered if progressives were calling Manchin corrupt. In Jamaal Bowman's case, calling him a racist. The media would have covered that. The media would have covered what I said the progressives should have done if they went down to West Virginia and Arizona and held massive rallies. I've been to West Virginia. You would get 7,000 to 10,000 people pretty quickly out to a rally for expanding Medicare, universal pre-K, the child tax credit, and a whole host of other things that were in this. You'd get them out there, particularly Bernie, AOC, Jamaal Bowman, shaming Joe Manchin on his doorstep, calling out the coal money. He's made millions of dollars from a coal company. Some might say, oh, Jordan, it's theater. It wouldn't do anything. Oh, yeah? Well, I guess we don't know because they wouldn't do it. Something that makes Shama Sawant successful in Seattle City Council member, right? Something that makes her very effective. And sure, it's on a local level. It's not Congress, but you could take examples. Something that makes Shama Sawant successful is she does exactly what I'm talking about. She calls the Democratic Party corrupt. She calls the elected mayor in Seattle, who I think is now leaving, corrupt. She activates the base of working class people. She activates the base of working class people in Seattle. She activates progressives. She shows up for progressives. She leverages activists on the ground to try and push through her proposals. She did it with a $15 minimum wage in Seattle. She wouldn't have got that through in Seattle if she didn't activate activists on the ground. She activated activists on the ground to get a tax on Amazon in Seattle, what they called a head tax, $250 a head or an employee at Amazon. So Amazon could pay for more affordable housing in Seattle since Amazon is responsible for the homeless explosion in Seattle. I want to show this part from Pramila Jayapal. She was also on after Manchin killed the deal. Take a look.
Yeah, Jake, it's great to see you. Look, this is what we feared. It's why we tied the two bills together to pass them through the House. And we did take the president's word that he would get 50 votes in the Senate. And the president called me yesterday. I do believe we will get there. I think he is still just as committed. And I don't think it's out of the question that we will at least have an agreement by the 25th. I still think we're going to get it done. And I've been urging the president, I communicated this to him yesterday from the Progressive Caucus, that we are trusting his word. He does need to deliver on this because it is 85% of his agenda. It's what we're going to do to actually address rising costs across the country by lowering costs of childcare, lowering costs of prescription drugs, insulin, paying $35 for your insulin instead of hundreds of dollars. And so I believe we're going to get it done. And I think we should continue to push for an agreement on the legislative text.
I just can't listen to this. I can't listen to her anymore. Maybe she's a swell person. She needs to go. She needs to go. You're still talking, oh, I think the president's still going to come true. Biden doesn't passionately care about any of these policies. Let me repeat. He doesn't care. He ran on a $15 minimum wage and he abandoned it in 5 minutes. Ran on a public option. He abandoned it in 5 minutes. He ran on $2,000 checks. Well, we gave you $1,400 checks. Ran on police reform. He literally has been in fetal position for a year, allowing Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema to become the co-presidents. Why do you think that is? Because he doesn't passionately want to fight for any of these things, because he isn't actually anywhere near progressive. And he, frankly, economically, is a right-winger. And actually, he's a right-winger, period.